Hey friends, welcome back. This is Dr. Christine Bradstreet of Change Your Mind, Change Your Life. We're talking about chronic pain and chronic functional symptoms and how you can overcome them yourself by learning the true cause of why you have them and then reversing that process. If you've been to this channel regularly, you already know, but if you're new to this channel, you're going to learn that chronic pain and chronic functional symptoms are almost never coming from the body itself. They are the result of a miscommunication between the brain and the body, and believe it or not, the symptom or the pain, it's being felt in the brain, not in your body. It's being generated in the brain and not in your body. Now, this doesn't mean it's all in your head. Absolutely not. This is the newest science, medical science and neuroscience, about the origin of chronic pain and how to unwind it so that you can have a lot less of it. Today I'm going to be talking about a key principle in neuroscience and in how the brain works to not only create this chronic pain and or symptom cycle, but also to perpetuate it or make it get worse over time. Now, it's neuroscience, but I'm going to do my best to break it down into just easy everyday language because it's really not a difficult concept. Before I do that, would you please take a moment to subscribe to the channel? The most important thing that you can do for yourself is to take in this content little by little, step by step, and then over time you're going to be untangling the knot of your own chronic pain or chronic symptom. All right, today we're going to talk about something called predictive coding, C-O-D-I-N-G, like programming. Predictive coding is something that your brain and nervous system does to help make its job easier, frankly. So the more your brain can predict, the less it has to rely on making calculations every single time. It doesn't take your brain very long to learn that a hot burner hurts if you touch it, right? So if your brain didn't have predictive coding, think of the damage that could happen to your body. You would keep touching hot burners because your brain wouldn't predict, oh, this could be hot, I should be careful with it, right? So predictive coding is a way for your brain to kind of take a shortcut. It doesn't have to learn the thing brand new over and over and over again. So ultimately, that's a good thing. It saves your brain time. It's good for keeping you safe. It's good for making quicker decisions. However, where this system can fail us is when it comes to chronic pain or chronic symptoms. The brain is constantly processing information by making predictions about the senses or the information coming up into it from the outside, either the outside world or your body. And then the brain learns the difference between what it expected to happen and what actually happened. This gap between what your brain expects to happen versus what actually happened is called a prediction error. Now, try not to let this information get too dry or boring, but I encourage you to keep listening because this is vitally important. Prediction coding is greatly responsible for your chronic symptoms. In chronic pain or chronic symptoms, the brain's predictive coding system can become dysregulated. It can make a mistake, and that can lead to persistent pain signals, even in the absence of any damage or dysfunction with the body. Well, how does that happen? All right, the brain is used to making predictions based on prior experiences. Prior experiences, context, expectations. So for example, if you bend over once and lift something and you strain yourself and that causes you pain, your brain can easily predict that, oh, every time you bend over or lift something, that is going to equal pain. Well, we know that's not true, but your brain has predicted it, and then that's what can make it to be true. Also, you can develop reinforcement of pain expectation. The brain can begin to expect pain even when no harm has been done. These expectations can either create pain when there was no pain there at all, or amplify, greatly increase, turn a little pain into a big pain. Over time, the brain will begin to prioritize the messages of pain over other sensory information that's harmless. Now, usually when there's a mismatch between what the brain expects to happen and what actually happens, your brain learns from that too and learns to prune it out so that it makes fewer errors in the same regard in the future. But when it comes to chronic pain or chronic symptoms, this error-reducing mechanism may be diminished. So the brain continues to interpret just benign sensation as being pain. Benign sensation like your waistband rubbing against your back, or the sensation of your stomach making some rumbling feelings. And then what can often happen over time is your brain and nervous system becomes hypervigilant, overly sensitive to these very minimal or benign or completely benign sensations. Now, remember, this is all happening without your awareness. So again, I can't state it strongly enough. It's not all in your head. You're not making it up. You're not somehow weak or not coping with life. It's something that your brain is doing as a computational error. So it's amplifying just benign, harmless, or mild signals. The brain begins to expect pain and it wants to do your bidding, so it says, here it is. Now, this is where our human emotions, our psyche, our mindset become intertwined. Because what happens now is our conscious brain starts to try to problem solve it. It starts to think about it too much. It starts to worry about it, catastrophize it, make black and white rules about it, do safety-seeking behavior and avoidance behaviors. And I've talked about all these different things in various videos, and this video would become hours long if I tried to take a deep dive into all of those. Again, that's why it's so important that you just take this in small doses day by day. But the actions that we consciously take in an attempt to deal with or reduce the chronic pain or chronic symptom that's happening on an unconscious level, well, that's just like fuel on the fire. And our attempts to stop the pain or symptom often are just making it worse unknowingly to us. Predictive coding not only applies to chronic pain, it applies to other functional symptoms like menstrual cramps, irritable bowel, chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, exercise intolerance, benign vertigo, migraine headaches. All of these issues have predictive coding as a cause. Just like in chronic pain, the brain can misinterpret signals that are normal in a human body, but the brain is interpreting them as problematic. For example, in irritable bowel, just normal gut mobility, all of a sudden the brain is perceiving it as painful or uncomfortable in some way. And again, then our thinking mind hops in with hypervigilance, putting it under a microscope, catastrophizing it, taking it on as an identity, making changes to your lifestyle in an attempt to mitigate it, and all these things complete the cycle. That's like a self-reinforcing loop. Take, for example, chronic fatigue or exercise intolerance. Well, you'd go out and you try to exercise and it makes you feel fatigued. Yes, it makes everybody feel fatigued. However, with predictive coding and then the conscious thoughts that come along with it, unconsciously, the brain is amplifying the sensation of fatigue or weakness, and then consciously, we start saying things like, why am I so tired? See, I knew it was a bad idea to try this. I'm going to pay the price for this. I better not do that again. I better rest or sleep extra tonight to make up, or I might have to do something physical tomorrow. I better prepare for it. So all these things are completing the loop. Now, unfortunately, over time, all we do is reinforce this loop. So predictive coding relies on past experiences, and it really can get hardwired in, get locked in to your nervous system. So the brain instantaneously, this is why pain can come on so suddenly, like a perceived spasm if you sneeze, excuse me, if you sneeze or bend in what you perceive to be the wrong way, because the brain, it's like, yeah, I got this predictive coding, I know exactly what's going to happen, and it delivers it for you without fail. So this is why it's so important to understand chronic pain and chronic symptoms through the lens of predictive coding. Now, what can you do about it? Well, number one is always awareness. There's a chance that you're in a great deal of pain right now, or really having significant, impactful symptoms right now. For starters, reassure yourself, tell your brain, you know what, I am actually okay. This is a predictive coding error. And you will be amazed at how much that awareness alone can change things, can move the needle for you. Start there. Start with that. Anytime you're having a day that is spicy, remind yourself, I have not gotten worse. I'm having some symptoms. These symptoms are the result of a predictive coding error by my brain. I'm not doing it to myself. My brain is not doing it to cause me a hard time. I'm not broken. I'm not defective. My brain's ability at predictive coding has just been misapplied. It's as simple as that. Beyond that, you can use all of the techniques I talk about here that help untangle this knot of predictive coding that has gotten hardwired into your system. Being aware of when you're catastrophizing, being aware of when you're doing safety-seeking behaviors, being aware of when you're doing avoidance behaviors, being aware of when you're being hypervigilant, hyper-aware, being aware of taking this on as a label, an identity, being aware of when you're ruminating and brooding, being aware of when you're taking too deep of a dive into whatever it is, your label, your symptom, being aware of when you're trying to fix something that's broken, because nothing is broken in you. All right, so again, watch and rewatch past videos. If you haven't seen a video in a while, go back and watch it again. It will sink in at a deeper level, or you will gain a better understanding by rewatching them. Graded exposure therapy is helpful in breaking this predictive coding. And Alan Gordon talks quite a bit about this in his book, The Way Out. So for example, if your brain has built the association that sitting causes pain, you can little by little teach yourself that that is not true. Expose yourself little by little by little. It's like you're very gently blowing up a balloon. One thing that us perfectionists, high achievers, black and white thinkers tend to do is tend to think that it's all or nothing. Like, if I can't sit for 2 hours straight and watch that movie or work on my project, I have failed. That's not how the body learns. The body learns gradually. The brain learns gradually. So again, sit for as long as you can. If pain starts to inch in a little bit, you remind yourself, this is the predictive coding that's kicking in. I'm not doing damage. I'm not harming myself. But don't make yourself suffer. You can get up. And then the next time you sit, again, you remind yourself, it's only predictive coding that's causing this pain. I'm not damaging anything. See if you can't sit for a little bit longer. Expand your window of tolerance a little bit at a time. I used sitting as an example, but this could be true for anything. The foods that you eat, the exercise that you do, the daily chores that you do, you name it, it can be anything. Mindfulness and relaxation techniques can help teach your brain that I am safe. So you can, in your mind's eye, like I said a moment ago, you can visualize yourself doing the thing that you've associated with your pain or your symptom. And while you're doing it, You're using your body's physiology to reinforce the messages of safety. Slow, deep belly breaths, relaxed muscles, a little bit of a smile on your face, maybe closed eyes, a gentleness, a softness. Teach your brain that living life is safe. Techniques like this leverage your brain's learning capacity to learn to not have pain or symptoms. It learned to have pain and symptoms and generate them and maintain them. Now help it learn to not have them. All right, that's a heavy lesson today. Take that in. If you need to rewatch it, go ahead and rewatch it. Whatever it takes to internalize this message so that it feels natural to you, so that you remember it when you need to remember it. All right, friends, we'll be back in a couple days. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.